Hello, this is Brian Rowe doing a quick review of Oddball Aeronauts Kickstarter and the mill strategy in Magic the Gathering for a Speed Geek review. Normally this would be two different videos on two different channels, but today I'm putting them together because there's so much overlap between the two topics. It just makes a lot of sense to me. Some of you guys might not know, I used to be a blogger out at the Steampunk Workshop. I talked about cool stuff like Transformers remixed into a steampunk genre, and it's one of the reasons that I really like this particular game, Oddball Aeronauts. It has a great steampunk aesthetic to it. The other thing is, I was an old school mill player for Magic the Gathering. Right after Legends came out, I played a Gravity Sphere moat deck with the only win condition of milling your opponent. And when I say mill, I mean running them out of cards. If they run out of cards and they draw a card, like during their draw phase, they automatically lose. That's the mechanic that Oddball Aeronauts is built on, as it's a mill game. Mill is also very popular currently in Modern. I think there's a really strong Modern deck out there for mill that is actually pretty inexpensive outside of the fetch lands. Hedron Crab is one of the strongest cards in it. It combos extremely well with the fetch lands. Glimpse the Unthinkable and Archive Trap are also really strong cards. Right now, if somebody is fetching, you can often mill a good portion of their deck in the first turn or two with these in your opening hand. For speculation targets, both the Crab and the Archive Trap are essential to the deck and much less expensive than Glimpse the Unthinkable, which I think is going to be reprinted soon. I would definitely take a look at the lists that are out there, see if there might be a way to fit Treasure Cruise into a particular list, and see what you can do to try to win in this very unique, creative way. Back onto Oddball Aeronauts, it was designed by Nigel and Lloyd. Nigel did the game design, and Lloyd has done the wonderful artwork with it. They kickstarted it earlier this year, and it did extremely well, double funding, and it's about to reach its goal to fund for the second version, which adds 2 new factions. We've got 4 days left on the Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter is one of the only ways to get a copy, which is why I'm mentioning it today. The Kickstarter adds 2 new factions, which I refer to as the Fuzzy faction and the Robot faction, the Free Kingdoms and the Mechanauts. They've got a little more strategy, but you don't know how to play yet, so let's jump into a little bit on the gameplay. Basically, it's a 2-player game. 99% of the games that I've seen play have been 2 players, although they've added multiplayer rules with the new expansion. It plays in 30 minutes or less. I would say most of my games have went about 20 minutes, and it's a medium-weight strategy game. You don't need a table, which is why I end up playing it in situations where I don't have the space to play Magic the Gathering. You can play it pretty much anywhere. I've played it a lot standing in line, waiting for things, because your life is your cards in hand. So you take the cards and put them on the back after you use them. If your opponent wins a particular trick or play between the two of you, it mills cards from the top of your deck onto the bottom. When you run out of cards, you lose. There's 3 different actions. There's sailing, guns, and boarding. Sailing allows you to recover some of those cards from the back. Guns allows you to mill extra cards off of your opponent, and boarding does both in milling one and recovering one. There is some choice in how many cards you're going to play each turn between 1 and 3, which gives it a really interesting aspect to it because you are using your cards and moving them to the back yourself, but you have control over that. If you can read or figure out what your opponent's doing, then you're able to choose to lose less when you lose, or play a little bit extra to win in a difficult situation. There are some other aspects. I definitely recommend checking out Rado's review, which is linked towards the end of this, to see a full playthrough of how to play. On the strategy side, you really want to look at your next 6 or 7 cards, not just your top 3, because you're both setting up this turn and then the next few turns coming up. You get to see basically all of your cards down to where you've already been milled. So yes, you could plan a very long-term strategy, but it's really not that useful beyond the first 6 or 7. The second is you want to try to lose with less cards. The less cards you give up when losing, the longer you're going to be able to stay in the game. So if you have a pretty good idea you're going to be losing the particular trick, just choose 1 card instead of 2 or 3 to minimize the effect or damage that's done. The pros of the game are definitely the amazing artwork, that you don't need a table. You can play this absolutely anywhere. New counters, new large play area, super portable. One deck box can hold your and your opponent's cards. It's a low-cost living card game that is a lot of fun to play. The only downside is it's pretty tough to find. Card Kingdom's got it here in the US, and the Kickstarter's got 4 days left, so if you're in the next 4 days, it's pretty easy to pick up. This may be one of your only chances, though, to pick it up. Final thoughts, if you want to know more about it, check out Rado's review from Drive-Thru Games from the earlier Kickstarter. It is great. It walks you all the way through how to play. He's also got an updated one that includes the multiplayer rules and the new game mechanics. I'm backing the Kickstarter, as are a few other people that I know. I would definitely recommend checking it out, maybe customize some decks, and hopefully we get a chance to play sometime. Thanks, this has been Brian Rowe talking about one of my favorite strategies in Magic the Gathering, Mill, both in Modern and in the new game, Oddball Aeronauts 2. Thank you to all the patrons that are out there supporting the channel. You make the cool stuff like this happen. I greatly appreciate it.